And you mentioned like that, just having a very, very large budget. Data seems like a really great opportunity, not only for like what Vivian was talking about earlier about maximizing how much income can come in, but also as a way to minimize expenses. Is that anything that you've worked with or faced with your clients, are utilizing data in order to keep costs low?
Yes, and in fact, something I just thought about that speaks to your creative question as well. So the band Demon Hunter, who I've worked with for the last 15 years or so, we a couple of years ago, I guess, I had pulled all of their Spotify data. I mean, it's been a while, I guess, so it would have been right around the time Spotify for Artists was really coming out of beta, and you could actually go and look and see cities, countries, towns, demographics, and which songs were doing best. And we figured out, looking at Spotify and Apple's metrics that came out, I think, a little bit later, their number one track was a B-side that was, just vocal and keys that, wasn't issued on an album, and they had never performed it live. They'd never even thought about performing it live. And I went to them as the manager and said, like, this song is not only your most popular song on streaming services, it's your most popular song by a wide margin. Let's just try it live. And it's their biggest song live now, so I mean, that's like very like, nuts and bolts, brass tacks, like using metrics to find something out that we wouldn't have known that has been beneficial not only to the band, but to their audience, because their audience is super psyched to hear that song they were all listening to that we never would have dreamed they were all listening to. So yeah, those specifics can definitely help in the creative sense. And it's really up to the individual artist to determine whether or not to go, oh, well, since now we know that was our number one song, maybe we should write 10 more of those on the next record. And that's kind of up, I think, to the individual to determine whether or not they think that's appropriate or ethical. But there's no shame in it if that's the way you want to handle it. But so I know I'm getting away from your original question, but I just remember that anecdote from your question.
Great story. Yeah, absolutely. And reducing costs, anything there?
Oh yeah, to that point, yes, that's another thing is when it comes to reducing costs, we did the last couple of tours that Demon Hunter did. We did the evening with format where it's just the band. They do an hour-long acoustic set, 30-minute video intermission, hour-long heavy set, end of the show. And a nice long fan meet and greet thing happens after sound check. And, this is coming from years of building touring packages. Here's your headliner, here's your co-headliner, here's your main support, and all the arguments and back and forths and battles that happen between all the managers and agents and labels and all the competing agendas and trying to determine the value of one band over another and who's going to get what, and then dealing with catering and all of those people and trying to find parking for 3 buses every day. We were just like, you know what? We're going to do a tour with no one else. That's going to be just them. There'll be no padding or inflating of the numbers, because that's another thing I'm sure all of us as managers and have dealt with, right? Where when you make a great package and you have sold out shows, the headliner always gives themselves the credit. And when the package goes out and does poorly, the headliner goes, look at all these crappy bands we got conned into taking as support. They were supposed to draw people. And we just decided, like, let's not play that game. Let's not get into AdMat wars about whose logo's next to whose and who's on the left side and who's on the right side. We're just going to go out by ourselves. And if no one comes, then we know we're worth no one. It was just, we just went for it. And it was, obviously I wouldn't be telling the story if it didn't have a happy ending. It was our most successful run, the band's career, certainly in many years, and merch was great and there were no headaches. But we used data to go into Spotify and figure out our biggest cities, our biggest markets, and went to our booking agent and said, here's the cities we want to play. And we went and played in all the cities in the US where the most people are listening to them on Spotify. And we had very successful shows.
It's similar. So, I think I'd heard the story about this.
It does have a very tangible benefit in that sense. And that, to your question of keeping costs low, we kept costs low by not paying a support bill and making sure that every town we went into was going to be somewhere that the band would be more successful than towns where we didn't have as many listeners.
Vivian, I hope you would let us be a little bit of a fly on the wall in your classroom. Are there any music industry problems that you hear over and over again from your students that you think better use of data can help solve?
I think basically the one that we've all been skirting around today of like, how do we make this data accessible to everyone? How do we like make data equality? Because the more that we expose everyone to data via tools, the sooner like our industry is going to pick it up and be more fluent in it. But I think it's like a cause and effect. There's not any tools out there really for all the indie managers, which is the majority of the music world. Spotify, is going to be producing a lot more club and touring acts than giant arena acts, just with their initiative of, however many million, I don't remember a million artists on Spotify, but like that, to sustain on that platform, it's going to be a lot of the smaller acts. So I would hope that you all as managers are pushing on your ends to get these tools built so that this data can be made more available to everyone.
Bill, what's your biggest pain point? What's the thing that you wish you had in your arsenal?
Well, like I said, the U.S. versus worldwide thing is a big one. But maybe not. In addition to data equality and data access, is kind of data education in a way, especially for young artists and young managers who, have no foundation at all. Not that we had any foundation. We all learned trial by fire, but learning which data is viable and good and in what situation, and learning what data isn't. And one example I deal with all the time, and I'm curious what the rest of you guys think, but Spotify monthly listeners is one that I run into quite a bit. And, my personal opinion is that, your monthly listeners it's volatile, right? It rises and falls based on playlisting or this and that. And I wish there was more of an education base, and maybe that's up to the labels and larger companies with best practices, and maybe that's one of the benefits of signing to a label, right? Is to get that education to begin with. But parsing out data, which is good or not even good or bad, but maybe on a sliding scale of what's very, very important and what's maybe not so important.
Randy, how are you parsing that out? I mean, you talked earlier about trying to stay focused. I think for, any of us who, the first time we learned that you could do a mail merge on Excel and Microsoft Word, all of a sudden we're spending hundreds of dollars in stamps that we never had before, 20 years ago. Similarly, that can happen with data as well. So how do you pick out what's important and what's not?
It's a difficult question. And to be honest, it would be great if there was a platform out there that took all this music data and educated people. These are suggestions of what to do with this information. So, if you look and see your Spotify streams grew, 20% this month, if it can, kind of going back to what Vivian was talking about with machine learning, it would be great if it could tell you that because of these 3 actions that happened on other platforms, that drove your Spotify plays. That kind of information would be priceless to have to better understand what to do with it. And I know that wasn't exactly your core question, which I've kind of forgotten, but
no, that's even better. I love that. Because Spotify and these other tools are using AI, and why can't the managers? Why can't people in the industry? As fans, we get suggested songs. Bands should have suggested fans.
Yeah, and I mean, I could give a great example where yesterday my day-to-day manager on Under Oath messaged me. We saw a SoundScan for the week of the top albums, and we were just having a conversation, and it was, why is Mac Miller's album number 3 or 4 or whatever it was this week? It went up got from 1,000 to 20,000 in a week. And we were just bored and go to Chartmetric, and we're going to all these sites trying to figure out what driver drove this. And it's not our act, but it's still important to understand why other acts' sales are being driven in a week. And, you know, for us, we're at a loss. We couldn't figure out what it was that drove those sales. But I did see a couple of other Warner Music acts have big jumps. So I was like, oh, maybe they did some kind of sales special for a couple of different records with some, you know, platform, you know, iTunes, I guess. I don't know where else they're still selling significant amounts of music, but I love looking at that and just figure out why is something happening. And it may not even be my act, but I'm hoping that I can learn how to drive sales for one of my acts from what someone else is doing.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head with asking the question why. That is just so key, I think, with all this data, not only why to use it, but also trying to find the answer to that question and that alone whenever you're searching through it. Mike, can you kind of wrap us up? This has been a really fascinating discussion. Like, when you ask the question why, are you able to find it in the data more now than ever?
Try to wrap this thing up. To me, right, I like the question of what is missing. And what I've always wanted is for somebody to be able to simplify a way for me to, I just want to compare. I want to say, is Under Oath as big as Demon Hunter, right? And I want all of the data to be able to be compiled in one place and take in every last bit of thing you could measure and spit out. Yes, one is definitively better than the other, but we don't really live in that world because there are so many different points that I just don't think that that's possible yet, but that's kind of where I hope that we get. So ultimately, to me, right, I feel like a data novice on this panel, and it's just so wonderful. I love, like, Randy's curiosity about what happened with Mac Miller is why I like to call Randy all the time. And for those of you that are out there who don't really understand data yet, start asking these questions. Start to find other people. Like, you know, I didn't even realize that Bill was so into this as he was until I went to Ryan and said, hey, how do we build out this great panel? And that's what I do on the regular for all of my artists, is when I don't understand exactly what I'm getting in, I try to go to somebody else, either that's within the team or within my Rolodex, to say, hey, what is it that I can be doing with this data? And oftentimes I might go to them and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to figure out. What data should I use to help me make this determination?
That's awesome. Everybody, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate your time. It's been fantastic. So